VueX store. This video is about the VueJS document store called VueX. If you're familiar with React and Redux, Redux is basically the equivalent to VueX. It's a way to store variables and information in your application and to reuse them and keep them in a safe state so they can be used throughout your application. So we're going to go ahead and start using the Vue command line tool to install VueJS, and then we'll also have to install VueX. It's good to remember that VueX is a separate component, just like with React. Redux is a separate component which has separate versions and separate lifecycle and updates and everything. So that's important when deploying your application and quoting clients for things like maintenance and that sort of thing, that it is a separate component that does require some separate thought. Okay, so let's start by installing VueJS using the command line tool, which is vue create, let's do VueX demo, and this will just take a moment to install. We're going to select our defaults here with Babel and ESLint. Okay, now we've installed VueJS using the command line tool. Next up, we need to install VueX. And we do this using npm. So npm install VueX. And again, this will just take a minute or so. Okay, so we want to change directory into our VueX demo, and then we want to install VueX next. So it's going to be using npm install VueX. And this will just take a minute or two. And now I received an error earlier because I tried to install it outside of the Vue install. So that's why it says could not install from demo VueX as it does not contain a package.json file. So that's just because I forgot to change directory into that folder. So VueX needs to be installed within a Vue location, which of course makes sense. All right, so we're going to go into our source folder here, and we need to open up a few files. Actually, first maybe what we'll do is we need to create a store directory. So let's make directory store. And then inside our store, we're going to create index.js, and then that will be our document store. Okay, and I'm just going to back out of there, and then we're going to npm run serve, and then that should start up our sort of default VueJS application. And you won't see anything different with VueX installed. It will just run as it would normally until you actually start using VueX. You won't know it's there, but it is installed and working at this point. Okay, and then now that's building, we're just going to go to localhost, and it should be port 8080. There we go. So as you can see, this is our sort of default boilerplate VueJS app, and we're going to go ahead now and open up the files that we need. Okay, so what we need is in our src folder, we need app, we'll need main.js, and we'll need our store, which is index. And we'll also need our component, but we're going to rename that one. So let's not open that yet, because instead of hello world, we're going to call it blog. As you can see in the background here, we've got an error now, failed to compile, cannot find component hello world, which obviously is because we just renamed hello world to be called blog. So let's go fix that. So that's included within app.vue is the one that's importing our hello world file, and it's a good point to look over where components are included and how they're included. So there's 3 different places that we'll need to change now that we've changed that name. So let's start with the actual file name. So from components hello world, that's now going to be blog.vue. and we're not importing hello world, we're going to be importing blog from blog rather than hello world. And we tell it down here, the components we're using, we have to declare here, we're going to be using the blog component. And then up here, this is where it actually shows up in the HTML, where it's visually appearing. So again, that's no longer hello world, that's now blog. And we're going to get rid of this welcome message because we're not going to use that. So now we've changed the 3 places where it's included in the HTML, where the file is actually imported, and where we declare that to Vue. And while that works, there's still one other change that we should make in blog, because down here, this should actually be blog as well, rather than hello world. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and remove all this text that we don't need. Okay, save that, and so now that's all cleared out. I'm also going to go back to app.vue, and I'm going to remove the logo for this project. And for this one, app.vue is not going to receive a lot of changes. It's going to be pretty basic. Most of the changes will be made in our store and in our blog.vue. But we do need to make a few changes. So let's go to main.js. We need to do a few changes here. So we're importing Vue and app in our main declaration, but the one other major thing that we need to do is we need to import store from .store index.js. We need to import our store, and then we need to declare that down here again that we're using the store. Okay, and looks like that is working. Okay, and maybe the next thing to do will to actually be create our store file. So this is still a blank file, which remember is in the store directory, just called index.js. But we need to create this file, so we need to import Vue from Vue as normal. We need to import VueX from VueX, so that's our VueX document store. And we need to declare that we're using that by going vue.use VueX. Okay, and then we need to export default new VueX store. Okay, and similar to other places where we were exporting our values, but in this one we're going to first of all create a state. Now the state basically contains our variables and the information that is going to be stored in VueX. So I'm going to create a title with the value of default. And a body, again with the value of default. Now, of course, you'd probably call it something else in a real application, but it just makes sense for this to explain that this is what's loading by default in our document store. Okay, and the other thing we need to have in our VueX is we need to have a mutation. Now, mutation is basically how the store is changed and updated. And obviously you can have creates, you can have updates, and you can have deletes. Okay, so we're going to have a set title mutation, and that has a state and a payload. The payload is sort of like the argument. So we have state.title equals payload. So that's basically right where we set that title once that function is run. And we're going to have a set body with a state and a payload. And then that, again, that's going to be state.body this time equals payload. So that basically, when those mutations or functions are run, we're going to be setting the title to the argument that's passed in, or the body to that argument or payload which is passed in. Okay, and so that's about it for our document store. Okay, so let's go over to blog.vue and make some changes over here. So this is where we will display the information, and it's also where we're going to import the information. So I'm going to create an H3 here just to display it a little bit nicer. And I'm going to put the title in there. And we're going to do a paragraph tag for our body. Okay, so basically this is where the title and the body will be placed once they are pulled out of the VueX store. I'm just going to put a line there, and then we're going to put our input for our title first. The model equals blog title. I'm going to put a break, and then we're going to put body input v model equals blog body. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Next up, we need a button so that we can actually save that data. So v on click. Now there's also shortcuts you can use in Vue. I believe it is just :@ for click. But one of the things I find is that programming gets confusing enough when you're switching between languages and different frameworks, and there's so many different things to remember that I really prefer to be a little bit more verbose and just use keywords that are obvious. So I like the v on click because it's obvious to myself and any team members that I'm coding with exactly what we're doing. Even if we're doing React today and we're doing Vue tomorrow, you know, keep things obvious. So I prefer to not use the shortcuts and just use them explicitly. But there's different ways of doing things, and everyone has an opinion. It is nice to have less typing, of course. Okay, so we're going to have a set title, and we're going to send that an argument of blog title, which obviously is being passed through from the input right above. And then we're going to have a set body function, and we're going to pass in the blog body. Okay, so I need to close that button, and then we need to put our set title and body. That's what this button will be called. Sometimes code auto-completion causes more troubles in it. Saves. Try to put in a closing body tag for me. Okay, so we have a button now which has on the click, it will set a title and set a body, but we just need to put in the actual functions for those that those will call. Okay, another thing we need to do is we need to import our store into this document as well. Store from store. Okay. Text.js. Okay, so we've imported those. We need to declare some of the variables that we're using. Let blog title equals nothing. Let blog body equals nothing. And it's better to use TypeScript for this. We'll have to set that up in another video to show how that all works, but I'm just doing this in plain JavaScript for now. Okay, so we're going to add our computed properties. And these are the items that are being pulled out of the VueX store. So we have computed, which is going to contain a title. And we're using an arrow function here, store.state.title. So that will receive the title from the VueX store. And we have the body. which will, again, using an arrow function, store.state.body. The body will receive, again, the value from the store. Okay, and next up, we need to declare those functions that we're calling in order to set the values to the store. But before we do that, let's go back to our document for a moment here. And as you can see already, the title and the body are receiving those default values from the VueX store. So that part is all working. We've done everything we need to receive from the store. We just need to actually set values to the store as well. But as you can see, that's all working. If we just go back to our store, that's where we set default store value. Let's put even more information here. Default store value. Okay, well, let's save that. And then as you can see, default store value. So that's receiving that out. But what we want to do, of course, is be able to set values to the store, which we're almost there. We just need our functions in the methods here. Okay, so in methods, we're going to have a set title function, and we're going to send into that our blog title, and we're going to use an arrow function to use store.commit, and within that it's going to call the set title function in the store, and we're going to send that blog title through here. And we're going to do the same thing with body, set body, blog body, arrow function to store.commit, set body, blog body. Okay, so one other thing we need to do is declare this data to, or declare these variables to VueJS in the data here. So we're going to do that here. Oops. Needs to be data, not date. So specifically, those are in the return area, blog title, blog body. Okay. Now it looks like we've caused an error here. Name, blog, props. Okay, so most likely, yes, we've forgotten a comma here. Okay, and as you can see, we're still receiving that information from the store, default store value, default store value. Okay, so my custom title, my body. Okay, and as you can see, that worked. We just set the value, we took it from these inputs, and we placed it into the VueJS store. And now that can be used throughout your Vue application in a repeatable, reliable way to store information in your application's state and store. Next tutorial, we'll have to do some AJAX requests using Axios to actually save that to a database as well. But this pretty much covers the front end portion of using the VueX store. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.